Hi, and welcome back to ENTP Live. Today's video is actually the first of a video series that I'm doing where I'm bringing other entrepreneurs onto the channel to share their experience and insight into what it's like to run a business. Today we have Jacob Godar, who's actually based in Illinois and runs a lawn care business, and he's going to give us the skinny on that business. And if you ever come across his channel, which I'm going to link below, you'll see that he's very transparent with how he approaches his own business, teaching others how they should scale up their operation, what equipment to use, and tips and tricks for the industry.
Carl, thank you so much for having me on here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to collaborate together, get to talk about business, because that's truly what I enjoy, no matter what the business. So again, thanks for having me on. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, so my first question is, I was curious, what got you into lawn care? Were you actually working in lawn care and decided, hey, I might as well do my own thing, or just kind of spontaneously woke up and saw that there was a need in your area?
So, I was a landscaper, worked in a lawn care company. I was a landscape foreman when I was like right out of high school. And I actually got out of that because I really liked the automotive industry, and I moved to a town about 30 minutes away to get into the auto body industry. I kind of worked my way through that, and I ended up at kind of getting to one of the companies in town that was probably one of the best to work for. And at that time where I was at, I was making really good money, and I was really happy with the progress I'd made. And I'd always had this thing where I'd wanted to start a business. There was a time where a Chamber of Commerce thing in my hometown was holding a how to write your business plan and start a business. And I remember having to ask my mom to drive me there because I wasn't old enough to go. So it was always this thing inside me that wanted to start something. I felt like you had to have a little more backstory for this conversation. But so as I was in this business, and I really appreciate, and I'm still great friends with the owner, I just kind of watched how he ran a business, and I realized more and more I wanted to have my own. And it started off with, I wanted to buy a body shop. And I met with a guy, I looked at someone that was wanting to sell, and I started running the numbers, and I'm like, this overhead and all to make this even start was so scary that it never happened. It went a long ways, and then it never happened. And, while all this is going, I've always been a workaholic. So I was painting, I was doing body work all day. I was painting cars all night at my home garage. And all of a sudden, I'd got my first house, and I had a push mower, a hand blower, and a weed eater. And I talked to, back then I had a roommate, and I said, how about we mow lawns on the side to make some money? I'm sick of just painting cars and working on cars all day long, 60 hours a week, and then all night and all weekend. This and I immediately go out and get some cheap door hangers or cheap little signs made and get rolling. And we talked about it as a we, or I talked about it as a we. I was the only person that was ever involved in starting the business. I don't think he ever came and did anything with me or helped, and that's fine. It wasn't his thing. But I remember walking out on the street, just handing these things out, knocking on doors and getting started. And that's how it all got started. And just with the drive to want to grow a business, that's always been my focus, because I'm really, obviously everyone wants more opportunity for themselves. But I'm really driven by more like a small business that only serves me just doesn't feel right. So I want to be able to continue to create more opportunity for other people. So that's kind of like what's got us going in the direction we're going.
Gotcha. What's funny is that the more people that I meet, I tend to find like the people I bump into have similar stories as me in a way, right? So one of my first jobs that I started working on when I was 13 was assisting somebody who had a garage auto body shop. Okay. And yeah, he was the son of a used car dealer, and his high school offered like a training program to learn how to do auto body work. Mm-hmm. So right after high school, he bought some equipment and started, fixing cars in his garage. I used to walk by his house on my way to school, played with his brothers and stuff like that. And it would just kind of hang out and watch. And I was like, you know what, can I help? So I started with wet sanding. All right, wet sand, wet sand the fender, wet sand this door. This is how you wet sand. This is the grit sandpaper that you use. And I ended up doing that from 13 to 18. And all throughout high school, it's how I bought my first car. I even started fixing wrecked cars and reselling them because that was one of the things that they were doing in their business as well. And I was just fascinated with the idea that, you know, you could take something, fix it up yourself, add value, and make money off of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that kind, and I always had been, you know, interested in like general problem solving and trying to derive income out of that, because I always liked having my own money. So it's always funny to hear other people's stories. And for you, it's like, I was working in a body shop and kind of just like woke up one morning, was like, you know what, maybe I could, you know, have my own body shop. And it was like, well, the costs are prohibitive and numbers don't quite make sense, but I still want to do something and I'm kind of bored, so I might as well monetize this time. So it's just funny to hear how frequently that feeling and that thought pattern drives somebody to start the business, right?
Yeah, sure.
And a lot of people who start their own businesses tend to follow that track. Like, hey, I'm going to just do, you know, I'm going to replicate what I, you know, do for work independently, right? I'm just going to run my own shop. Why? Because it's going to provide me with a little more freedom, potentially a little more money. And that's where it starts. And I encourage you guys at home who've been thinking about, you know, opening your own business, first look in your own industry, right? Because you're going to have, you know, experience and knowledge of that industry, and enough experience and knowledge in that industry to identify a problem that your employer may not be addressing. And that in itself could be the premise of your business. You know, what Jacob did is a little different because he kind of went in a whole different direction. But, you know, when starting your own business and your first business, it really makes sense to kind of go with what you know, right? And address a problem. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, I'm going to open up my own body shop, or, you know, I work in a hospital, so I'm going to open up a hospital. But you may figure out that, you know what, there's a gap in your hospital's process or a gap in your employer's process that you have a fix for. And once you have a fix, you could turn around and sell that fix to that entire industry group, because most likely they have the same problem.
Most definitely. And you know, like, I mean, that's such a good message, that look at your skill set. You know, there's something in everybody's skill set, no matter what their skill set is, that's marketable, it's a service that someone can use it. And like you mentioned, it was a different spin from where I was at, but I did come from this. I spent a lot of time in that industry, so it was nice. That's why I've felt we've made so much movement, because I've never been scared to take on new things. Because back when I worked at a lawn care and landscape company, I ran the gamut. Like I did the lawn care. I did all of the landscaping. I led a landscaping crew for a year. I worked in a bucket truck and did tree trimming, even though I wanted nothing to do with it. It's probably the most dangerous thing I've ever been involved in my life. So I've kind of seen the whole industry, some forcefully and some by choice. And, you know, so it was good. So I didn't learn really from that owner much about owning a company and being good to your employees. So I kind of learned that from, like I said, I can't stress enough, the guy that has the body shop here in town is a heart of gold. He's a philanthropist. He's super, super successful. And so much goes back to him from like instilling a good way to really get a business rolling, and a good, you know, a good thought process towards employees, and a good way to create a culture. So it was a nice spread of, it's crazy how all these things have taught me so many different things. Like all the information I got from those two things has really been well-rounding for me, all the way down to just working on cars. I did so much for so many years. It taught me patience that I never had before, you know, and that works out well now. Still fight my patience a little bit, but it's better than it used to be.
So one thing that I'm trying to stress on this channel is making sure that you have a vision for the type of company that you want to be. Mm-hmm. When you started your lawn care business, did you just start out to make a few extra dollars and it evolved, or did you have like a vision for where you wanted that company to go?
Well, so I want to preface this with, you know, where I came from and kind of what I got, what gave me the drive I have. And that's really racing motorcycles. You know, I've got so much competitive drive for that. You know, when you see me moving around trying to get comfortable, it's from, you know, I broke my back from here to here. and there's a lot of soreness related to all these bones I broke, and it caused such a competitive nature. So when I went out to start the business, I just take that same 200% attitude towards everything. Some people like that about me, and a lot of people hate that about me. You know, it's just one of those things that you love it or you hate it. And so when I went out and started the business, I've had a lot of people ask me that. Honestly, from the second I started it, I wanted to grow it to the moon as much as possible. And I've never been able to answer why that draw is there for anything I do in my life. But anyone that I've known for a long time will tell me, he's like, no, you've been that way about everything. It didn't matter what. That's just the way you were.
Did you have like a specific goal in mind, right? Because I preach, like, I live by SMART goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I preach that in order to hit certain figures or hit certain markers in your life or milestones, you have to set them. You have to define them.
Yes.
So did you define, you know, what this level of success would be, or do you not have a ceiling on that, or like how do you?
There's probably no true ceiling, because that was half the reason I wanted to get into business in the first place. You know, I saw the ceilings in working for someone else, especially in the industry I was in, and so I don't really have super long-term goals. You know, I probably have anywhere from 3 to 5 year goals, and then I keep just upping them based off how much progress we've made. You know, I guess at the beginning of the main goal was I wanted to get all the information I could get to grow the business as quick as possible. And probably at a time it was, you know, I wanted to grow a business that produced a certain number of revenue for my family, you know, but there were so many other things that pushed it too, because I wanted a business that employed people and always continued to grow. And yeah, every so often, I mean, I just continuously reset those goals. You know, like right now I'm setting my goals. I haven't really redone them. And my farthest out goal I'm writing is 2023. You know, I set it as a 5 year goal, and I'm still writing that down, and they've changed. They fluidly change over time. But yes, to try to nail it down, the first thing was probably wanting to create a certain amount of income for the wife. And, you know, I had this goal of doing it with her, you know, no matter if I was there or not. So I wanted to create a business that would do it with or without me. And that's proven to be a challenge, but, you know, and it will still continue to be. But, you know, we've hit a lot of the numbers that I wanted. We've hit most of the things most of the short-term goals that we set out and wanted to do. And that just fired me up even more, because that's one of the things I've learned the most is all these short-term goals and things that you hit. Like, I immediately need another goal, because the second I hit it, like, I'm like, oh, you know, it doesn't feel as good as the whole way to it. So.
Yeah. It's something that I tell my wife, actually. It's like, she's like, when does it stop for you? Right. Yeah. And it was like, I don't know. And she's like, when are you ever happy? That's actually a weird conversation, because it's like, I don't quite know what that really means.
I feel like happiness is the process. If you're like, you're describing me by saying that thing.
Yeah, it's like, I enjoy that process, and then I need to be in like project-based work where I could step back and say, okay, I did that, cool. And that's like, that might be like the peak of the happiness. And it's like, all right, once it goes into maintenance, I start to like, oh my God, like suffer. So I constantly need to be doing new things and evolving. That's my personality type. Mm-hmm. So I realized that early on in like my entrepreneurial life, that I had like this cycle of where I would start something, be really excited, and then, you know, at that 6-month mark, start to lose interest. And whether it was making money or not, it didn't matter to me. I was no longer interested, and peace out. So what I ended up doing from that point is realizing that any business that I start either has to be cash flow positive, where I'm able to hire employees that are more consistent than I am within that 6-month period, or the project needs to conclude at 6 months. And that's why real estate actually works really well for me, because I can pick up a dilapidated property, fix it up. That's the fun part for me. And then once it's ready to either list, then I'm done with it. I make my money. Or if I'm keeping it as a rental property, I end up having my property manager manage it, and I'm not dealing with the routine maintenance calls, and just because I'll always neglect that. So from that point, I realized that, all right, no matter what business I get myself into, I have to know, when do I start reaching cash flow positive? When do I hit the point where I can employ people? And when do I know that that I'm ready to be out, or else I'm set to collapse? And in this new venture that I'm in, the expansion of my home care company, I also knew that it was important for me to set where I want to be as a company, what type of company I want to be. See, my home care company in New York is more like a family mom and pop shop. It does well, but I felt that there was a greater trajectory for us, and my partners just didn't have the same vision. So in starting this one, I already set the standard to be either we're getting acquired for a major buyout, as an expansion play for a bigger player in the industry, or we're taking this to public offering. And then I designed my business around that vision. And for me, I have my own milestones to like projects within the organization to keep me entertained, because it's at this point, for me, it's not even about money. It's about the game of, can I execute and deliver on this idea that I have in my mind, right? So like I like to ask other entrepreneurs that questions, like, did you start randomly? Did you start with this clear vision? And even if you were to start again, right? Do you think that you would do it exactly the same way? Or do you feel like, if I had to start this all over again, you would do it way more efficient and scale faster?
Because I've done it. I've actually, did you say you're in Florida?
Yeah, I'm in Florida right now.
Yeah, so we started a second one in Cape Coral, Florida.
Okay.
And that was going into, I think that was in 2018. And that was kind of going into the off season. And I hired some management here, and we really got that one rolling. And it was probably the hardest I've ever worked and hardest I've ever pushed myself. Because I was doing a ton of work with trying to find people down there. But basically, yeah, everything went a million times faster. I mean, I knew exactly what I needed, even though it was still like the baby steps of starting a business. Like, I knew what all I had to do. When I went down there, I was like, okay, I got a week. I got to find a place to rent. I have to find some accounts to buy to at least get us some work. I got to round up the equipment, buy a low dollar truck for cash. And,
you know your numbers, you know what your spread should be.
Like I knew how to do it. And it's like in the first year, like in 2018, or no, that would have been 2000. Yeah, I think it was March 2019, right before it kind of concluded. Our March 2018 was as good as the previous year's March in our home base after we'd been in business for 3 or 4 years already. Yeah. And this was 6 months into operating a whole new business. So yeah, I mean, really a lot of it was just knowing how to sell stuff now, but all the easy, like you said, maintenance stuff, or the stuff that after you've done it, like the creating and what the structure needs to be. It's just like, it's like supercharged, because you don't even think about it. You're like, I need to call this, I need this insurance, I need to call this person, I need these things lined out, I need the system to track the customers. Done.
Gotcha.
And it was cool. It was really sad, because that Florida is a place that I definitely want to have a lot of connection to. I like Florida. I'm a hot weather freak. I hate our weather here. I'm just kind of tied down to, I'm not even so much tied down. It's just, we've got a good thing going here as well. Yeah, so we had management it was a cash flow tight time anyway. And it was a huge struggle. And that's honestly, I think all I really like pushing myself up against. I like an impossible task and then just going for it anyway. And the management we had here, unfortunately, it just didn't really work out. We ended up, once the second person didn't work out, I was like, yeah, we can't do this. This is bigger back home and small here. We need to go back. So
gotcha.
But yeah, so starting the second time would be much more efficient, and you know exactly what needs to happen.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you shared that story, because it's not always roses, right? For you as a business owner, and the public tends to only see the highlights, right? They don't see the, looking at the bank account and going, if these guys don't pay me this week, I got to figure out how I'm going to pay the staff. And if I don't pay the staff, I got to figure out where I got to hide, because, things get really ugly. And I've had so many like near blowups in my business. Yeah. And that's part of it. It looks fine and dandy from the outside, but the journey,
a 10-year overnight success.
Yeah, the journey is something else, and that's actually the fun part. And I think that's what draws entrepreneurs to other entrepreneurs, because they all know, like, yeah, we've been through some stuff, and it gives you tons and tons of insight. So what advice do you have for someone who's got that little bug in them to start a business?
I think one of my biggest things of advice is that, well, first off, you got to know that it's going to be hard. And you mentioned this earlier, and yes, there are more freedoms potentially, but you've got to know that, signing up to be a business owner, you shouldn't do it if your idea is, I want to have more free time. There's certain things that, especially when you're startup and you're starting something brand new and you're getting rolling, you need to know that it's going to be a challenge. And I guess with all that said, I can't preface that enough, but the challenge is going to be there. Depending on the business, that can last a certain amount of time before you plateau. And if you're a true business owner, you're going to keep continuously putting to new challenges as you go. But probably the most important advice is just no matter what, no matter what, you have to keep moving forward. You can't just get stuck. You have to, you can't let problems and challenges, you can't let worrying about having to pay the staff paralyze you so much that you can't make the rest of the decisions that get that staff paid.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, I even think you need to even just get started.
Yeah, sure.
There's so many entrepreneurs or people who want to be entrepreneurs who say, I got this idea. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, all right, man, that sounds cool. Do it. And then the first thing out of their mouth is a reason why they can't.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, you have to eliminate that. Like, I understand there should be a certain amount of prep, but you could find yourself preparing for a market that doesn't exist, mm-hmm. or being over-prepared. It's wasting years and years of time that could have been you growing your customer base, because you realize that your customers don't even want the crap that you're pushing, right? So it's like, if you start, that's like the most critical thing, because you get yourself in the water, mm-hmm. and then it's like, all right, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? And understand that, the majority of us fail. I mean, if you hit it out the park on your first venture, your failure is around the corner. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen to you, right? And if it doesn't happen to you, God bless you. But when it does happen to you, you're going to learn so much, and nobody could take away that bit of knowledge from you, right? Mm-hmm. And even when you do fail and you realize that it didn't kill you, and hopefully it didn't land you in prison, right? But if you do fail and you're not dead or in jail, you have everything that you need to do it better the next time. Mm-hmm. So my advice in general is, like, you guys at home who have this idea of, like, I want to do my own thing, I want to run my own shop, just start. Even if it's, in the most basic version, just start.
Yes.
If it's your first time. If you are more seasoned and, you maybe were high-level staff somewhere and you know that you could replicate the business, then you could spend more time planning. But if you're getting into an industry that, there's a low barrier to entry, like lawnmower, a blower, and you have that equipment readily available to you, go for it. That's a lot different than building a data center, for instance, right? Like, if you want to build a data center, you got to get your financing in order. You need to do, it's a different project. But, if you had this idea that I want to start this, this business on my own, and you have everything that you need to have to get it started, you better wake up and start doing it, or else you may find yourself, waking up really unhappy and asking yourself why you didn't.
That what you're saying is a powerful message. And I only led that with with what I said about you, I always like making sure I hear some people talk, and sometimes I get worried about a person wanting to start a business because I know their nature is going to be, they're looking at it for what it's not. But when you are looking at it for what it is and you know you're up to the challenge, that is the most important thing, is don't waste time. You know, there's no actual perfection in perfection. You know, you can't, perfection is I hate, this sounds so weird to me now looking back, but it's such a waste of time. You know, it's to be doing and to be creating and to be tweaking the things as you go is is so much better than trying to make sure everything's perfect before, like you said, you take the first step or any step along the way.
Yeah. I don't think there's ever a perfect business. You know, you know, because the world is going to continuously evolve, technology is going to evolve, people's mentalities are going to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constant game of build, study, improve, build, study, improve. And you know, you have to love that game in order to push your company further, or you need to team up with people who are that way. You know, that's another thing. It's like, don't think that you are just operating by yourself. Surround yourself with people who want the same things as you, but who have similar and or different skill sets. And I think different skill sets is important too, because, you know, doing it all will burn you out, right?
Yes.
Being able to delegate some task to someone on your team who's much better at it than you is also, you know, a really good bit of advice that I could give to anybody who's looking to get started.
That's amazing. That is the best advice to kind of follow that up from, because, you know, I might be one type, I might be an entrepreneur, and Carl might be the manager kind of head in the business. And then we have another third person that's the artist that truly brings the creativity and all the genius into it. But without Carl's management to make sure all the people can go produce it at a level, and without the entrepreneur's pure drive to point forward and care about the numbers and the money, you know, it's like three pieces that you really need to try to work all together. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a horrible manager. And that's why, like, you know, I'm going to have to find somebody that does it much better than me, because
of course,
my entrepreneurship and my entrepreneur type attitude does not serve well for management. I am a million mile an hour forward type of guy that, like, seriously, I want quality products, but when I look at it, I see numbers, you know, I see I see charts, you know, that's what it is in my head. So it takes all kinds.
If you could be doing any other business, what would it be?
That's such a hard question. I think if I could be doing any other business, I would be trying to build maybe two separate things. It would either be some sort of business that was super, super easy to replicate without me there. And that could be done in our business with changes. It's just not something I push towards. Or another thing that is serious, and I know this isn't exact business line, but something that could be done from anywhere is a huge focus of mine. So say like making like if you have knowledge about anything and you could create courses online or webinars or something like that, any kind of thing that could be done like that. And it doesn't have to be that, but those are huge things that interest me. So if I went back in my business, for example, landscaping and design is the biggest portion of our business because it drives growth and revenue the fastest. So I like that because I want growth and we need the capital to be able to do more new things. But if there was a way to structure it to just have it be maintenance, I don't touch maintenance. Zoe, our office manager, sells all the maintenance, does all the communication, bills all the people, does everything for it, and I don't even see it. You know, I'm completely consumed with designs and estimates and consults and project check-ins and things like that. So I like it because I want the cash in the business, but I would love to be able to take ours and potentially at some point we're going to pivot and we're going to figure out a way. I'm going to make a decision because I'm going to get to the point, like you said, what's kept me excited about my business has been that I've always been able to change. So I'm not still taking all the calls. I don't even answer my email. Typically, you know, I'm not the person that even looks at my email. I'm not doing a lot of what you considered like maintenance. I'm always looking at the new biggest trophy or fire or thing in the business that can be done. And I do believe in our business at some point that's not going to any longer be there. And I'm going to have to find a way to shift this business into a more self-sustaining model and kind of continue. That's why I like things like stock, real estate, all kinds of other things interest me, because as I'm kind of making that transition, I'm trying to what some of the people that like the suggestions that are getting made here, even if you're not on full time, you're starting like little side hustle, side business. You know, I'm kind of starting some of those transitions on my own right now to be able to move into it.
Gotcha. And you know, it's funny because that's something that I try to stress here. Like I have the series on like Airbnb rentals, right? Which is a play off of real estate. But I find, you know, my Airbnb business to be rather rewarding because I run it from right here, anywhere I am. And the only person that I need to direct is the person who turns over my apartment, right? And all I have to do is give them the schedule. What is the schedule for the month? She goes there, she keys in, she turns it over. I have almost no touch. Like for 1 month, I could generate, you know, about $4,000 in rent on my New York City apartment, and my profit ends up being around $900. But I'm spending no more than 20 minutes a month for that unit. So and I like that, and I always try to stress to people, like, you know, try to find little hustles that you can do that, you know, you're maximizing how much you're making per an hour of time.
Yeah.
So that, you know, and that you could do it anywhere, right? Like you don't want to be restricted to, you know, unless you want to, but I don't want to be restricted to having to physically be in a location to earn my money. And that if I'm not in that location, or if I'm not providing direct services, I lose revenue.
Yeah.
Right. Because my favorite thing to do is be away and meeting people, learning new things, and discovering the world. And the only way that I could do that, you know, with continuity is to make sure that I have money coming in at all times, where I'm not necessarily trading my time for dollars anymore. And sometimes we could create businesses that are dependent on us. Mm-hmm. And I've been in that situation where it's like with my home care company, I got to a point where there were so many processes that counted on me, signing checks, for instance, or you know, updating information in the Department of Health portal. It's like, you know, I'll be on vacation doing work, and I was like, this absolutely blows. And I had to make the decision that, you know what, it's worth it for me to hire people to do these things, or entrust the staff that I already have to do some of my responsibilities so I could get my life back.
Yeah.
And even in my new business now, it's the same sort of thinking. What am I going to do to ensure that I don't become a slave to my company? I don't care how much money I'm making. I don't want to be a slave to my company. I don't want to be the employee again inside of my company. It's something that I think all people should take into consideration. Mm-hmm. Man, Jacob, I really appreciate you coming on. This is the first time that I'm talking to, you know, another content creator and someone who's entrepreneurial as well, to bring, you know, a different set of thoughts to the channel, even though there's a lot of like similarities between us. Yeah. But it helps to reinforce the concepts that you know are consistent within our lifestyles. This lifestyle of being an entrepreneur, this lifestyle of going out there and making your own. So before we get going, just let the people know, you know, a little bit about your channel, what you cover, so that if they want to learn more from you, they know where to find you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. So yeah, so you can find my YouTube channel. You can just search, it's just Jacob Godar, and it's right on YouTube. I cover a lot of different stuff. You know, we cover just different things in the lawn and landscape industry, business in general. It's a very heavy focused on running your business smart, knowing your numbers, knowing how to figure out your numbers, all the way to the certain approaches we have on running a business with CRMs and email marketing and AdWords marketing and Facebook marketing, just all things to help grow your business is really what we try to talk about. And like we talked about here on a video recently, you know, really getting off into other things, talking about different investments, stocks, real estate, and just trying to always grow every day. So that's really what our YouTube or my YouTube channel is about. You can also, if you're in the lawn care industry, you can also check out jacobgodar.com. We have a lot of good information there to help grow your business. A lot of documents that we've used for us, and a lot of marketing documents that you can use along with Excel spreadsheets and everything else.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for coming on and chopping it up with me. Also, I did a video with Jacob that I'm talking about my experience as a day trader and how to kind of approach day trading. It's something that he's interested in. He didn't quite know much about day trading, and I was able to give him some insight as to what I think. Here on ENTP Life, you know that I really, don't talk about stocks too much because I'm mostly focused on real estate and then, my other interests. I've done a few posts on indicators that I use to kind of gauge where the market is going. And I've posted like some of the things that I've done, but if you are interested in day trading or you want to get a hold of some of that content, go on over there, check out that video when it does become available, and make sure you check it out because we cover a lot of juicy bits of day trading that I think you guys might enjoy. Once again, thank you for joining me here at ENTP Life. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe. Don't forget to hit that like button. And if you had any questions, and actually if you made it all the way to this point, please, if you had any questions, leave it in the comment section below. Your time is appreciated. Thank you very much.